Hello and welcome to episode 7 of ranking the entirety of the map packs. This is the series where I rank the entirety of the map packs. If you'd like to see how the series works and just see a lot of information that I would have given to you in previous episodes, you can watch the entirety of the series, which will be in a playlist linked down in the description. One change to the series going forward is I have yet again increased the amount of reviews there will be per episode, as now I will be reviewing 10 map packs per episode. There are multiple reasons for this, but it mainly comes down to the fact that I want to beat these levels faster for the rebeat arc, but I also feel it's a generally good thing because it gives you guys a lot more content. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing going forward. But with that all being said, let's get into the first review. Genuinely not a lot to say about this one. Utopia Dash is a very boring level with very okay looking deco for the time, and the gameplay, starting off okay, surprisingly gets worse and worse the farther you get into the level, but it's nothing to give a shit about. This is the most 5 out of 10 level I've ever seen in my life. Cant Let Go V2 by Rabbitical is actually a good level. Who would have thought? If your V2 actually expands upon the original, makes good gameplay, and does something different and unique while looking better, it's going to be a good level. Wow, what a concept. This level does something very clever. Something a lot of people dislike about the original Cant Let Go by RobTop is the timings can be very, very brutal, to the point where a majority of people actually believe that Cant Let Go is harder than Jumper because they hate the timings just that much. This level made the clever decision of, instead of the skill set being those timings, making the skill set learny fakes, and it's actually pretty cool because the fakes are insanely well designed. There's also just some cool looking parts like this ship at 60%, and generally it's just a better version of Cant Let Go. I'm actually kind of floored that this is as good as it is because I really did not expect much going into Cant Let Go V2 by Rabbitical. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Cant Let Go V2 by Rabbitical is getting a 10 out of 10. Genuinely not a lot to say about this one. Cytic Flow is a very boring level with very okay looking deco for the time, and the gameplay, starting off okay, surprisingly gets worse and worse the farther you get into the level, but it's nothing to give a shit about. This is the most 5 out of 10 level I've ever seen in my life. More Neptune V2 levels, and just like before, I am not going to talk about them individually because they're fucking boring. Remix Pack 2 contains Dryout V2, Base After Base V2, and Cant Let Go V2, and all of these levels are basically just the RobTop levels, but worse. And that's really it. I will say, unlike before, each of them actually has a bit of differing quality instead of them all just getting the same ranking, but that's not because there's anything interesting to talk about, it's just because some of them have worse gameplay than others. This is probably because Neptune was a cheater, I don't know, but basically the harder the V2, the worse the gameplay is. And I don't just mean because it's bad because it's hard, that's not what I'm saying, it's the harder they are, the more strange gameplay issues crop up that just shouldn't be there. The dark part in Cant Let Go V2 is just so much worse, like obviously so, to the point where it's not even worth discussing why. You can see this and you can see why it's bad. Something about the original Cant Let Go's dark part just builds so much tension, but Cant Let Go V2 manages to remove all that tension by just simply making the gameplay simpler. I don't know how they managed to fuck that up, especially the second dark part. Like, dude, I don't know what the fuck this is. Also, I know the coins don't matter that much in this level because they're like the fake 1.9 coin, but look at the coin in the second dark part. What a fucking downgrade from Cant Let Go's coin, which was already not that good. Like, what the fuck is this? The more I look at it, the more I realize that specifically Cant Let Go V2 is so much worse than the other two just because of how much it butchers Cant Let Go. I mentioned way back in the series when I reviewed Remix Pack 1 that the reason the Neptune V2 levels are worse is because they disregard the most important part of the RobTop levels, which is that they teach you the mechanics of the game. For example, in Stereo Madness, when you go through the first ship portal, it leaves the first set of obstacles on the ceiling to give you time to get your bearings and learn that you can fly. Whereas Stereo Madness V2 just throws you right in and doesn't give you any time to adjust. But the thing is, in terms of these levels being sort of tutorials for the player, that's not the only thing you can fuck up. Cant Let Go doesn't really provide any new mechanics for the player to learn. In fact, mechanic-wise, it's basically just a harder version of base after base. Rather, Cant Let Go introduces the player to stricter timings, giving the player this idea that they'll have to have a lot of discipline on their clicks. They might have to wait. There might be a spike above them, so they have to wait like a little bit to jump, you know what I mean? It gets the player accustomed to timings like this. I'd argue that Cant Let Go is actually a very important level for the player's progression when they are trying to beat their first demon. Cant Let Go is a pure skill improvement level, and weirdly enough, Cant Let Go V2 by Neptune somehow fucks this up by making half of the infamous gate clicks buffers. And I really don't know how you fuck that up. Other than those specific problems with Cant Let Go V2, though, they all basically share the same problems. They're just worse versions of the Rob Top levels, and that's, I feel like, going to be the trend until we get to the demons. Going in order here, I think I'm gonna give Tryout V2 a 5 out of 10, Base After Base V2 a 4 out of 10, and Cant Let Go V2 a 2 out of 10. Did we ever properly leave the Neptune V2s with this one? Hopper by Rock Dead could have easily have been called Jumper V2 and it'd have been the same fucking thing. Because this level just feels like a shittier version of Jumper. I'd rather play Jumper. That's all it comes down to. I guess I'll give Hopper a 5 out of 10, but man, this level's just so fucking boring to me. Lightout by Emilax is perplexing, and I don't even really know what I want to say about this level. I just beat it, as I'm doing with all the levels now in the series. I'm beating them before I go to review them, but this level left me fucking speechless because it's set up to be one of the better levels of the map packs. It has really good deco, it uses a Newgrounds song, it's clearly from 1.9, but something about this level's gameplay just left me feeling empty. Made worse by the fact that the coins just feel so arbitrarily placed. I hate to say it, and I really try not to use this word, but this level just feels like filler. I can't help but see it as just another level on the servers, just another level in the map packs, because it really does play like one of the levels of all time. And the worst part is, no matter what I do here, my score doesn't feel right. You know, if I give it anything above a 5, it feels like I'm being too nice to it. If I give it a 5 or a below, it feels like I'm being too mean to it, but I really do think this level comes around to being extremely mid, because the deco is good, but it doesn't do anything unique. The gameplay is just kind of there. Yeah, 5 out of 10. This one is legitimately interesting to discuss. Dizzy World by Yun Hasao 14 is a Cant Let Go inspired level that actually does something unique with the original level's concept. The gameplay feels very different and stands alone on its own, to the point where it doesn't feel like a V2 or anything. And I also feel like the song rep is pretty solid, albeit I will say these blue pads feel very out of place. And making matters worse, the blue pads can also just shoot you into the skybox, which is not great. But ignoring that, this level has a lot of really cool ideas. The way the ship part is structured in the second half is really cool, although throwing this gap into a 6-star is fucking brutal. I do not know why that is here, but since I'm pretty good at the game, I didn't struggle with it that much, and I actually thought it was pretty cool to come across because it was a little difficult section, but I could also understand this being very frustrating to new players. The thing I want to compliment the most is actually the dark part. The dark part was handled extremely well, and I like the idea of switching it to a ball halfway through to spice things up. Honestly, the Cant Let Go dark part makes more sense structurally as a ball. It just works. Like, if you took Cant Let Go, made the dark part a ball, it would actually replace xStep pretty well as a good introduction to the mechanic. All in all, I was actually very surprised by this one. I did very much enjoy it, and despite the fact that I died to the triple spike at the end, which definitely was not the best, I still like this, and I think I'd definitely give this a 8 out of 10. Another Flappy Bird level. I hate Flappy Bird levels. I fucking hate Flappy Bird levels. Flappy Ufo by JXAN. It's another Flappy Bird level. I hate Flappy Bird levels. They're so fucking boring. I don't want to play shitty Flappy Bird, but I mean, hey, I'll give this level this. At least it's easy as shit. Still, I'm not gonna be nice to it because it's a fucking Flappy Bird level, and I hate Flappy Bird levels, bro. I hate them so much. 2 out of 10. I'd give it a 1 out of 10, but it's so easy that you likely will not die to it, so yeah, 2 out of 10. I actually forgot to review Back on Track V2 by Sumsar, and now that I'm looking at the level, I get why, because it's just another generic V2. It does nothing to stand out. The only thing, I guess, different this level does is it puts invisible blocks over a lot of the objects to give them this fading effect. Woo, so different, you know, it's an effect you barely fucking notice. So yeah, this is another one of those levels that feels like Rob Top level, but worse, and something tells me there's gonna be a lot more of these going forward, and I'm getting very fucking sick of them. My patience is really growing thin with these levels. They're so fucking boring, so yeah, 5 out of 10. Electro Polargeist by Findexty is genuinely unique and very, very cool. This level is a Polargeist remake, as you could imagine, but it's actually very unique, not just because of the way it derives off of Polargeist, but because of some unique ideas it has. The gameplay is very original despite obviously being inspired by Polargeist, and has some really cool ideas within. There's a lot of just really cool stuff this level does with the gameplay that I find really unique, but my focus is more on the deco. As you can imagine, this level's whole thing is that it's meant to look like electrodynamics while being Polargeist, but it expands on that idea a lot by having the background pulse with the jump rings at the beginning and stuff like that. Also, the pulses have something very unique that honestly, to this day, I haven't seen a lot of people try, and that's having the background and the objects pulse a darker color rather than a brighter one. I don't know why, but that just works really well and looks really pleasant, especially with the shade of green this level uses at the beginning. Now, unfortunately, I have to dock it a little bit of points because the gameplay is a bit questionable and at some points outright bad. There are some parts where there's just a bunch of jumps where all you can really do is buffer and hold them. Like, there's no timing, there's no sense of direction, which wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that you can start those series of jumps late and just veer off and die, which is a bit annoying. But other than that, this level's really good, and that issue of the gameplay is something you can easily get past with a couple practice runs. So yeah, I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 for this one. This map pack is another Neptune V2 situation, which means yes, I'll be doing 2 extra reviews this episode. This fucking sucks. The fast pack is basically the first 3 Rob Top levels, except you are 3 times speed, and they restructure the level to be possible that way. Now, right off the bat, the levels being 3 times speed doesn't actually change anything. This isn't like when you speed hack the game to make the level harder by making it faster. You're playing the same level at the same speed. All that's different is that you are a 3 times speed game mode, which in turn just means that you jump farther. But since the level is extended to compensate for that, you're just playing fucking Stereo Madness Back on Track and Polargeist, so that's already boring as shit. I guess you could argue it makes it harder to sight read, but like, only super new players are gonna struggle with that. Most people will be fine with this, so this is completely unnecessary. It changes nothing. These are just the 3 Rob Top levels, but technically modified. Like, you can tell they're different, but they're the same levels. So already you have to ask the question of what the fuck was the point of making these, let alone why the fuck did Rob Top add these to the map packs. But it gets worse when you consider that that's not the only issue. Here's something that good players still won't be okay with. These levels were not play tested at 3 times speed very well, and so you can run into deaths like this. So not only do these just play like the normal first 3 Rob Top levels, but they're buggy versions of the normal 3 Rob Top levels. The way I see it, these levels have no reason to exist, and I guarantee you a majority of people only fucking beat these because they're star grinding or they're grinding the map packs. Worthless levels, I'm giving them 1 out of 10s. All 3 of them. What an incredibly unique and interesting level. Little Jumpy by Punky Soul is breathing with creativity while having some genuinely satisfying and good gameplay. The color use, the structuring, the way everything is sort of merged into the darkness, it leaves an impression on you. It's a legitimately creative and cool level. It also uses the song very, very well, having the pulses match up with the song in a very unique way. I don't know, I just think this level's really fucking good. This is insanely creative, and I'm legitimately impressed. Not much more to say. 10 out of 10. GMD Level Mix by Pre-Dawn is a Rob Top level mix, one of those uncreative ones where they literally just take the gameplay from the Rob Top levels and don't try to make it better. However, this level received an update, and a really perplexing one. This level has hexagon force through finger dash. Yeah, the 2.1 level. Look, before we even continue and I start to review the level further, do you understand just how shell-shocked I was going through the map packs and just playing all of the Stereo Madness through, like, Cant Let Go remakes, right? Just Stereo Madness, polargeist, Stereo Madness, back on track, polargeist, Stereo Madness. And then I get to this level, and it has fucking finger dash in it. I'm almost out of breath at just seeing it pop up here. Anyway, yeah, so bewildering update and bewildering just development aside, this level sucks, and it's because of the update. Pre-update, if I'm not mistaken, it would have ended with electrodynamics, which would have been a difficulty spike at the end, but a manageable one, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. But by adding hexagon force through finger dash, this means at the very end of this level, you have to deal with Geometrical Dominator, ToE2, and Deadlocked. Weird choice, and while they picked a rather easy part of Deadlocked, it just makes this level so second half heavy that it's not fun. It's not fun at all. I'm pretty good at the Rob Top levels, so I one-attempted this after a single practice run, but I can already see how that's an issue, and that's not a forgivable issue. Also, the transitions between the levels get worse after the extension. I mean, like, look at the transition into Deadlocked. What the fuck is this? It's not good. I would have given this level a 1 out of 10 because it's derivative and the extension ruined an already derivative level, but I cannot deny the feeling I got getting to this in the map packs and seeing Finger Dash was a bewildering experience enough, so I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. But it's the worst 2 out of 10, easily. This next level is Time Technology, and it is legitimately just exhausting for me to talk about this one because I was just flabbergasted the entire time I was playing this. Not even gonna talk about the deco here, it's bland, I don't give a shit. Gameplay-wise, this is basically somehow a shittier version of all the problems from Time is Eco. Structurally and progression-wise, they're not similar, and this doesn't contain any of the jump rings within a spike, but it does contain the insane amount of triple spikes and the awkward as fuck gameplay. The best I can describe what this level plays like is if you combine Dynamic on Track and Time is Eco. It is bad. 1 out of 10. Fuck this level. This one is just disappointing. Tiny Toons by Jerkrat had a chance to live up to a lot of the top of the best levels of the map packs. It was going to be a high 10 out of 10, but unfortunately some gameplay issues and the random out-of-place duel just hold it back. It doesn't play very well at all, but I'm still not gonna let that lower it too much because while I fucking hate this level's gameplay, this is a ridiculously creative 1.9 level. In the ship part that admittedly does kind of go on for way too long, it looks really fucking cool because of these oddly round ground spikes. The rest of it, though, is just a really high-quality 1.9 level, and that's definitely welcome to see in the map packs, especially after all of the fucking Stereo Madness remakes we've gone through at this point. So yeah, I'm feeling like giving this level a pretty strong 8 out of 10. Streetwise by Super Oppie is a level that I don't have a lot to say about, however, I will say that this level's gameplay is ridiculously fun, containing just some quirky 1.9 gameplay, and it looks really good. I'm gonna be honest, even though this level doesn't leave me with that much to say, it was a breath of fresh air for the map packs, and I'm glad I got to play something I actually fucking enjoyed. What I can say is that this is one of those levels that feels frustrating, but for the right reasons, you know what I mean? Like, it's not free and you'll struggle with it, but not because the level's bad, not because it's bullshit, just because the gameplay is challenging, and yeah, I definitely appreciate that. that. I am just happy to come across a level this well made this far into the map packs. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10 and just fucking thank God I needed this after time technology. Next we have Swirl by Jerkrat, and this level is basically if you combine the other two levels in the map packs but remove all the negatives. Yeah, this level's great. The gameplay's amazing, the decoration is creative, the structuring is creative, I just think everything about this level is good, and it gives me this nice hit of nostalgia that I would expect from a good map pack level. It's just good. This level is a blast to play. I didn't have a single issue with it. Yeah, it's just a good level. And once again, 10 out of 10. Is this level literally just called 5 by Cody because it's the 5th Rob Top level? Is that why? That's kind of funny. Unfortunately, the rest of the level is not worth talking about. It is just a run-of-the-mill, bullshit, boring, base after base remake with way more fakes than the original, which makes it annoying to play. I think I'm gonna give 5 a 5 out of 10. 10 xStep is actually interesting despite being just another Rob Top remake. Probably because we're farther in the updates with this one, but this one is an xStep remake, and it's got some pretty good fakes. The structuring is interesting. The progression and gameplay are different enough from xStep for it to feel more original. But that being said, at the end of the day, this does end up just feeling like xStep and Clutterfunk kind of fused together. It is fun and I don't hate it, however, I still think I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, and what solidified that for me is how abruptly this level ends, but I don't hate this one. Not gonna waste much more time with this one because it's the exact same review as last time. 8 Jumper by Cody is just everything I said in the last review applies here. I will, however, say that this one is a fusion between xStep and Jumper rather than xStep and Clutterfunk. And because I like Jumper more than I do Clutterfunk, I like this level more than the last one, but it's a 5 out of 10. Same review. Man, this is refreshing. Instead of a Cant Let Go or a Stereo Madness or a Back on Track remake, we get a Clubstep remake, which unironically there are not a lot of up until this point. This level's pretty unique, changing things up from Clubstep quite a bit, however the gameplay is a bit annoying and I can't be asked to say anything else about this. I'm bored out of my mind at this point of the map pack, so yeah, 5 out of 10. What a deceptive little piece of shit SkyFrost is. This level almost tricks you into thinking it's gonna be a good level, because at first there's a bunch of really good qualities about it. First of all, the gameplay's interesting, and yet it's very easy, so it feels like you're just gonna tank through this. You'll have a very efficient, very fast, very normal feeling practice run of the level, and on top of that, the level's very competently themed. It's called SkyFrost, and they gave it this icy look, and they even used Time Machine as the song, which sounds like a very cold, windy song. It's very on point, and it's done very well. But as you start to do runs in practice mode or play from zero, which is more likely because this level will trick you into thinking you don't need to do runs and will make you want to go straight from zero. So once you start going from zero, this level just decides to fuck you over. This level is loaded with blind clicks where you fall and you have to hold while falling to click an orb, which doesn't seem like a big deal at first because you can just try to remember, okay, you just fall for a long time, and if you're not holding, you basically instantly die. If you hold, you make the next blind jump, and then you're good. Because of that, the level conditions you to, if you see a blind fall, hold, because there's going to be a jump at the end of it. Except for the fact that there is a jump at the very beginning and the very end where that does not apply, and so this level basically does psychological warfare on you. One of two things will happen to you. Either you'll die because you're not trying to hold on transitions, or you get used to holding on transitions so you survive all of those, but then you die on this ship transition and this fall, and it is infuriating. What's more is you'll find yourself dying to the first ship transition constantly because you're used to falls, so it's not like a one and done thing. You'll die to this ship repeatedly over and over because you're just used to the other transitions, and by the time you do think to remember that you don't hold here specifically, you'll have been spending so much time from zero that when you do get to the other one at the end, you'll forget there, and you'll just die there, and this level just ends up being this weird, stunted progress experience that ends up being really awful. This form of weird, bizarro, psychological warfare game design is not fun to deal with, and I can understand a lot of people getting pissed off at this level. I was gonna give it a 10 out of 10, honestly, because I was so impressed by the insanely good theming and how unique the level felt, but this bizarre, almost psychological warfare-esque game design is enough for me to bump it down to a 7 out of 10 because, man, this shit is frustrating. Wormhole by Jazer is a very unique level with very unique structuring, very unique gameplay. I'm using the word unique a lot, and that's not really a coincidence. Jazer levels have always been unique, and so coming across a Jazer level in the map packs, especially at this point, was a very reassuring thing. Playing the level, I was not disappointed because the level plays very well, the gameplay feels very unique. Even with this being an old level, I still don't feel like I've ever played a level with gameplay like this, and yeah, just generally a fun level. I don't have that much more to say, I'm just gonna give it a 10. Next up we have Time Extension. Not a lot to say about this, other than 2 blue orbs in the middle of the level that are really annoying to hit. This is a genuinely good level. Jelt actually took Time is Eco and made it a good level, and I am legitimately surprised. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10, and the only reason it's not a 10 is because I really do hate those 2 blue orbs. Next we have FunnyGame Holiday, and take a guess who made this one. This is probably the most revolutionary effect level of all time, and if you don't know this level, then you're probably new to the game. Nothing wrong with that, that's just the only scenario in which I could see someone not knowing of this level. It is of legendary status and for good reason. For those of you watching the background footage and seeing the level, you might be questioning why this level is so legendary. All I need to tell you is this level wasn't made in 2.0 or 2.1. Hell, it wasn't even made in 1.9. This level was released in update 1.7. For the record, duels weren't even in the game yet. Believe it or not, this level is older than a majority of the map pack levels. Just to name a few examples, this came out before Time is Eco, Dorabay Basic 4, Glitter Jumper, Time Technology, Hexagon Hyperdrive, Flappy Hexagon, Simple Cloud. This came out before either of the other 2 levels in this pack. For a level that old, because we've seen what levels of this age look like. We are reviewing them as we speak. So for a level this old to look this good, holy shit. The gameplay is admittedly not that great, but who fucking cares? Look at what we are looking at here. This is insane for its time. The pulses are beautiful, the way that they fade is really smooth, the colors are really good. Everything about this level is expertly crafted, and it's so ahead of its time, it is insane. Very obvious 10 out of 10. 13 TOE takes a level that I already think is pretty good, Theory of Everything, and makes it way faster paced and way more intense, which is a cool way to make the remake interesting. The gameplay of this level is finicky in some parts, but for the most part extremely fun and does not have a lot of problems. The decoration, I mean, I'm still coming down from the high that is playing FunnyGame Holiday in the map packs, so lower our standards, lower them. This level looks very good. The decoration is pretty simple, but it's reminiscent of a lot of the old Electroman Adventures era Clubstep remakes, even though it's not a Clubstep remake at all, it just looks like a lot of those. It's because of that I do have to say the decoration leaves a little bit to be desired from me, because I know that decoration could have been a lot better back then, but at the same time, simple isn't bad, and if the creator was sticking to what they knew they were capable of, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that as long as the level is polished and feels finished. There's a lot of questionable stuff in this level though, mainly in the gameplay. I found in a lot of the UFO sections, I would just naturally end up hitbox clipping into the ceiling, like it would just happen. I never died there, but it felt like I was always on the cusp of it. And yeah, I mean, this level's good, but I think I'm gonna have to give this one a 9 out of 10. Another remix pack, so more Neptune V2 levels. In this case, we have Jumper V2, Time Machine V2, and Cycles V2R. Now, I don't know if Hell's freezing over or anything, but I actually like these three V2s a lot. These ones are pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong, they still suffer from the same problems all the other V2s suffer from. They're derivative to the RobTop levels, and they're worse in terms of game design, but we're getting to a difficulty range here where RobTop's levels, if matched up with the map pack difficulty, they kind of stop caring about game design as much. Like, don't get me wrong, they care, but they don't care as much. They care a lot more about being difficult. By the time you get to Time Machine, the levels actually get a bit annoying in terms of gameplay themselves. A lot of the game design of the RobTop levels, instead of going into the actual gameplay, is now focused a lot more on how they introduce the features. Time Machine's gameplay is not new player friendly, but the way it introduces the mirror portal is very new player friendly, so it doesn't really matter as much if the gameplay is more fucked up. Time Machine is kind of known for having some questionable gameplay and some blind jumps and a lot of triple spikes, so having a harder version of that doesn't really throw out as much game design as you'd expect. It really does feel like what you would expect from a V2, just a more complicated and difficult version. On top of that, this isn't a remake of Stereo Madness or Cant Let Go or Back on Track. Jumper through Cycles remakes are a lot less common in the map packs for whatever reason. So that feeling of exhaustion we've been feeling in the map packs up until this point, where it's just a million different versions of Stereo Madness, these levels are a lot less affected than stuff like Stereo Madness V2 was. The only one of the three levels here that's really hurt is Jumper, because Jumper is known for having very simple but confusing gameplay, at least to a new player. Most people look at Jumper and it's fine, but Jumper's whole thing is that it teaches you that you can't buffer everything, and it teaches you that there might be combinations of clicks and releases rather than just having chains of holds, because almost everything in Jumper is a click, and so that's really it. Other than that, Jumper is ridiculously simple, so making a complicated version of that does kind of ruin it a bit, especially with the fake yellow jump rings in the 50s. Those really suck. But other than those two, the other two levels are pretty good. Time Machine is not that great, but that's actually not really Neptune's fault. I just don't like Time Machine, so of course I'm not gonna like Time Machine V2. But I actually really enjoyed Cycles V2. Or sorry, my bad, Cycles V2R for some reason. But yeah, Cycles V2R is a lot of fun, because the thing about Cycles is that it introduces spammed yellow orb fakes, and so considering that's how half of Neptune's buffs work, this actually just kind of works. I will say the worst part of the level is like the very, very beginning, where it throws the most difficult to read fake in the level at you, but also that does kind of work because it encourages you to go into practice mode a lot sooner. I genuinely really like Cycles V2R, which I did not expect to say. I did not expect to have anything positive to say about a remix pack. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Jumper V2 a 3 out of 10, Time Machine a 5 out of 10, and I'm going to give Cycles V2R an 8 out of 10. I will say though, because this was another remix pack, and this is another one of those map packs where I review all three levels at the same time, let's throw in an additional map pack review. So that's 3 extra reviews at the end now. Because this would have been one of the extra pack reviews, and that's lame. Like, genuinely, we're replacing a remix pack with another remix pack, so let's just not count this. We have 2 more map pack reviews after this. Clash is fine, albeit the gameplay is a bit frustrating. I do find this gameplay to be very, very odd, and this level's just deceptively frustrating from zero. I genuinely don't have that much to say about it. The structuring's pretty cool. There's some pretty unique structures, and I don't know, man. I'm stretching at this point. This is getting really difficult to review these. 6 out of 10, I guess. Very Hard CLG by FunnyGame is the angriest I've gotten beating a level in a long fucking time. This level took me an irrationally long time, and most of that time was dying to the same goddamn click. This level introduced me to the concept of a hyper buffer, which is basically a buffer click where you can't mess it up, because if you don't buffer it, you don't even have a frame of leniency. Failing to buffer the click will result in instant death. It is just a really punishing buffer, and this level has a really awful one in the ball. What? A lot of the gameplay throughout this level is of a similar caliber of frustrating, and it is loaded with blind jumps that make it just awful to play. Fucking terrible level. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. Clutterfunk Remix is so fucking derivative to Clutterfunk, it's not even worth talking about. I would have given this a 5 out of 10 because of how derivative it is, while still not being bad because it's just fucking easier Clutterfunk. But there is a really funny skip that I took, and because of that skip, I'm bumping it up to a 6 out of 10. Because this skip is extremely entertaining, and it's kind of difficult to do, and I don't know, I love this skip. It's so funny. So yeah, 6 out of 10. As is becoming a theme up to this point, I have literally nothing to say about this level, so let's just cut to the chase. It's a shitty version of Electroman Adventures. It is still pretty fun, all things considered, but nothing special. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Bro, it's just shitty Clutterfunk. What the fuck am I supposed to say about it? ErrorFunk is just shitty fucking Clutterfunk. I don't care. 5 out of 10. Ice Cave V4, yet another old level that I just don't have that much to say about. I will say at least the theming is strong with this. It's clearly going for an icy theme, and it uses Polargeist as the song. And the gameplay's not necessarily bad, but just like a lot of stuff we've seen this episode, I fail to give a fuck. I guess I'll give it a 6 out of 10. That feels right, I think. And that was episode 7 of Ranking the Map Packs. Especially at the end here, but throughout this entire episode, you've probably started to see why I extended the amount of levels we have again. It's because these reviews are getting really short because I just have nothing to fucking say. It's getting to the point where we're playing so many old levels, and so many of them are just so similar to each other, that it just becomes boring to talk about. But I think this actually highlights the main issue with the map packs. It's not that every single one of these levels is super low quality. Like, if you ignored the map packs and you just came across these levels very sparingly and rarely while star grinding, you'd probably, I mean, you wouldn't have much to say about them, but you probably wouldn't care. You'd beat them and they just exist. But going through the map packs like I am, and like a lot of new players think they're supposed to do, it's very obvious why the map packs and the levels in them have such a bad reputation. At least that's part of it. Because where I have ended this episode is very clean. Because the next episode, we're going to end up experiencing some of the worst levels the map packs have to offer. This episode did a very good job portraying the boredom and aimlessness that you feel when going through these, but the next episode is going to be a lot more angry, and I'm not looking forward to it. Like, I normally let people kind of experience the emotions with me as the episode goes on, but the episode before the next one, I can already tell the next episode is going to be the most difficult of the series for me to go through. But that being said, that's all I really have to say this episode, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Ranking the Map Packs.